I apologize for the interruption. Of course, life is not without risk, and I wouldn't say that that particular accident was even an unknown. The potentiality was always there, and that's why I keep a towel nearby. So at least there's that. So there's always the positive side. And all right. Well, I did have the benefit of being able to make a little bit more tea and find the note that I was looking for. All right. Now the researchers that I was talking about that pretty much knew about this in the 80s, and the ancients knew about it as well. I'm sure that's why the Maya and the Sumerians and your biblical records, a lot of different religious, the things that are passed down over the centuries are inscribed in cuneiform or, written right into the temple walls. So it was information that the ancients even wanted us to have, but more modern astronomers, I can give you a few examples of that have known about this information. You had JPL, PhD in astronomy. The senior research scientist over there was Dr. John D. Anderson, if you want to look into his work. Of course, when we talk about rapid changes in the Earth, and again, I'm speaking of what is rapid for the Earth may not be rapid for a human. See, our lifespans are generally at best about 100 years. So what is 100 years to the Earth? What is extremely rapid to us or extremely rapid to the Earth might be slow motion for us. Just think of us as being creatures that are moving in hyperspeed compared to that of the universe. We're in our microcosm, in our tiny world, we're moving at a much faster speed than that of the cosmos at large. It gives us an opportunity at least to make decisions, unless you run into an accident like spilling your tea, and then hopefully you have a plan and you can execute that plan. Or train yourself for knowing that that's a potential, or knowing that it's probable, to train yourself so that when that day does arrive, you're able to react quickly. Another person that's been talking about it at great length, not one of my favorite people, but he's still a smart guy. He's a little bit more of a doomsday kind of screw you, I don't give a rat's ass kind of guy, but everybody's got, personality. And just because you're highly intelligent doesn't necessarily mean you're incredibly personable. So they're not mutually exclusive. Intelligence does not equal charisma. Well, I guess we see that in politics too, don't we? Marshall Masters. And then Steve Olson over at WSO appears to be a pretty good resource if you wanted to look into these things. But the Chilean astronomer that I was speaking of earlier, his name is Carlos Muñoz Ferrada. And one planet in this Nemesis system, Nemesis being the brown dwarf star that's about 4 to 6 times the mass of Jupiter, has its own solar system that's with it that consists of a few different planetary bodies. And those planetary bodies are, let's see here. Well, Ferrada is 1, Hercules is 2, Nibiru is 3, Helion, Arbota, Harrington. So that's where it is. That's pretty much what's been identified to be part of that solar system. So I'm sure you've all heard of Nibiru, Farada, Harrington, Arbota, Helion. Those are the ones. And then you have Dr. Robert Harrington, who was no slouch. He was part of the, he was the supervising astronomer for the U.S. Naval Observatory. And then you've got other independent astronomers like Mr. Lloyd Pye. Well, you know, Harrington came out with the model that was fairly precise about the time frame, and a lot of that information has been obfuscated. And this is why books are so important. And I notice this happen all the time. It's like my uncle asked me once when I picked up an old, there was only two artifacts that I wanted from a particular adventure. One was a gilded dictionary that had many resources in it, and the other was a letter opener that appeared to be a dagger. And so I appreciated the context of both of these things. But anyway, that's why books are so important, because to actually alter the data, they have to come and literally grab the book and burn it or remove it from you. And that's much more difficult than on the internet, where they can continually reinvent information. And when people look to their phones or whatever, they don't have the memory. That's why we have libraries. People rely on the internet for that information, but libraries are much more valuable because that information is not easily alterable. They do, you know, revisions and when they print books and such. So that's why collectors love the earliest editions. But I can see a trend on the internet. My uncle, he said, why do you want a dictionary? Why do you want this old dictionary? Well, it's been evidenced to me recently that the spell check on my phone will revert or reset every once in a while, or show me that the bigger words that I'm using are misspelled when in fact they are not. And I know it's not particularly hard to have a database, a dictionary database, or an accurate spell checker. And I think this is just another way to kind of limit people's ability to use or even attempt to use better language, because they're afraid to. If your phone tells you that it's wrong or that it's misspelled and you trust it, which is silly, but people do, they trust it, then they won't use that language that might be more descriptive. Thus, this is why the dictionary, the book, is more important, because that information is not easily alterable. The same thing has been evidenced recently in YouTube and in Google, and you can see the manipulation of search results, whereas if you go to a book, you have it. You have it. Okay. Like, and then they can change, you know, change the definitions of things on the internet all the time. It's like one person thinks a basted egg is, you know, like sunny side up, using, you know, grease to have a very, very light yolk, and the other person thinks that it's where you suck it up. You use the turkey baster to suck an egg yolk up into the turkey baster, and that's a basted egg, to push it out that way. And I don't know, what does Google say it is? What's a basted egg? So see how silly this is. It's almost like dumbing down on purpose. Dragonfly internet stuff. But I'm giving you the keys. I'm giving you guys the keys to having access to better information, and also kind of skirting around the blatant censorship, because you're mature enough to know what the truth is or figure it out for yourself and then plan for your own survival. I just don't want to see anybody get hurt. All right, so this is Astral Traveler, and if you notice over here, it's one of the playlists that I put up for you guys. It's called Censored Science, Weather, Nemesis, Free Energy. So if I find a particularly juicy little piece, I'll pop it in here. And so you don't have to search, or you won't, have to develop those linkages that one particular series of investigations leads down. And then you have the benefit of knowing that I've reviewed the information. And it's not bullshit. Now, I can call it wrong sometimes. But the reason that I like these particular people on these particular channels in this particular subject is because they are true scientists and they actually ask people to challenge their assumptions. Okay, Maverick Star Reloaded. He's doing work with the poles and magnetics and time frames and setting up his own magnetic observatory, and he's been ahead of NASA's releases and government releases all the time on a shoestring budget, working over there in the UK. We'll play a couple of seconds of his clip.
Some people in some of these sensitive countries, such as China and Russia, that are prepared to house these magnetometers in the positions where we need them. If we can't, we're going to have to go a little bit further afield and choose other countries within the vicinity.
So you're getting an idea of the quality of the research. Now this is something that is not scientific, and that is an important thing to draw on as well. You look not only to understand the world around you, you look not only to one particular way of observing or measuring the world, but many ways of observing or measuring the world. And let's try and pour this tea. It's so dangerous with a book in one hand and tea in the other. What shall I do? I think I'll try and focus on what I'm doing and just pour the tea. I'm sure you guys can handle a second or two. All right, and so when you look at the world and you try and determine what the world really is, it's important to draw on other types of sources as well. And this is the non-scientific source. This is Seven Spalding, and he basically gets up and he goes where it's freezing out there in Ohio, I believe Cleveland, and makes observations. And we'll play just a few seconds of his clip.
Man, just get it while you can, Seven. 27th of February 2019, Cincinnati, Ohio, USA. 7 p.m. So we're about half an hour after sunset. Oh, see, they got you blurred. That's okay, blur away. Blur away. You know, get it to where you can see it. So, I mean, I don't know, you know.
All right, so you can see that it's non-scientific, but he's making as honest an observation as he can about the place where he is standing. And that's all the type of information that I'm really ever interested in, is somebody making an honest observation, no matter what their skill level is or what they're observing. That's the most critical type of information that you can come by, is somebody's honest perspective. When they don't know, they say they don't know, and they enjoy that in saying that they don't know and that they're in awe and they understand that it's beyond their comprehension. because, you know, I guess people have been so programmed with television. You have a mystery that's, you know, an hour long. And by the end of that hour, the mystery is resolved. But in life, very rarely do we ever actually find out what happened exactly, or know what happened exactly, or know what is happening exactly. We're only trying to take the best educated guesses that we can on the information that we have gathered to give us an idea or a bearing about the future. What to do about it. All right, I'll show another source. This is, of course, I love it when they stick this box here, because when I see them slam something like that up in front of somebody's channel, I know they're pushing the right buttons. I know they're pushing the right buttons, and that brings me joy to no end. It's like when I see these little things at the bottom of a video, it's kind of like this person has earned a badge. Okay, they've earned a little bit of a trophy in the Special Olympics that we call YouTube. All right, I'll play just a few seconds of his clip here, because he has a very different perspective on what's going on.
Forming like a triangle right there in the front. Can we all agree that they could never, ever hide something like this?
All right, this is not the best example, but it's a okay example. But I'm gonna pull a better one. This just happened to be one of his most recent things, so, or maybe not. Yeah, it was one of his most recent things. So let's see. There was one that was very, very obvious that he could be onto something. Let's try this, or let's try this.
Look at that, guys. Look at that. Are you serious? Are you freaking serious? Guys, this right here, look, this is what I'm talking about whenever you hear me say Nibiru is a system. Okay? Look at this. This is truly what it does right here. You're looking at it. Look at all those trails and the formations like converging together. Are you kidding me? Look at that.
So I've given you the resources, and now you can look for yourself and make your own determinations and distinctions and decisions about what's going on. Because I've not really been in this field of research until recently, because I've been on a night schedule, of course. Most people will know that. And I just so happened to be outside and notice that the sky was turning very, very bright in the middle of the night. And I said, oh, wow, I cannot reconcile this with anything that I've ever observed before, and I do not understand what is going on. So I had to try and figure out, okay, what is going on? And I also noticed that there was a planetoid above Venus that was extremely bright that I did not expect to be there. And Venus was extremely bright, and basically everyone knows, as it says in Thessalonians, or pray without ceasing. And this is what I attempt to do in my life, is to open my heart to God and have God lead me to what I need to see. So I asked in my heart, I prayed, send me a sign so I can see and that I will know what the truth is. And I look to my left and I looked up. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was the brightest star I had ever seen in the sky. And that might be Venus. That might have been Venus. But again, I'm no astronomer. I'm just now on the path of trying to learn a little bit more about it so I can try and understand what's going on around me. Because I speculate that our environmental changes and the massive animal die-offs is not only due to the Fukushima radiation, which is playing a huge part, because we see cesium in the wine in California. We know that these power plants are extremely dangerous and that they're not disposing of the waste, and we are dealing with environmental changes. We are dealing with more powerful storms. We need to decommission the Mark 1s as of yesterday, and because they just pose too great a threat. And just as Fukushima just continually still is, for whatever propaganda they push out there, it's still not resolved. But it is not only that's causing these environmental changes, because I couldn't reconcile that with the animal die-offs I was seeing in the Gulf of Mexico, because it would take a long time for that level of radiation to reach the Gulf of Mexico and deliver that type of environmental impact. Now, I could expect to see tumors and so forth, or dead tidal pools in Vancouver, and look at Dana Durnford's research, and he's another one that can be greatly appreciated because he got all kinds of gag orders from the Canadian government. So it's like gaining a medal, really. When they tell you to shut up, that means if you're over the target, you're going to catch some flack. And those are the guys that you need to pay attention to, as the ones that they're telling to shut up. So, but his research has definitively shown that the Pacific Ocean is dying. But I speculate that not only is it the Fukushima radiation, but solar radiation coming in, because what we see on the satellites that monitor the electromagnetic field, or Earth's shields against incoming solar radiation, is being pulled around and weakened by that second binary system, the Nemesis system, which causes the tailspin, the electromagnetic shield, to allow more of this solar radiation in, which ionizes the upper atmosphere, and helium wants to turn into H4, and that's why we're getting these red and purple skies at night. So, because of that incoming solar radiation, or radiation potentially that's coming off of that other system, or the gravitational effects of it. So this is all something that's still under a great deal of debate and speculation. So, but pay attention. I mean, look at the moon. The moon is not supposed to be, you're not supposed to see it turn and spin. It, you know, in all of even the short time that I had been alive, or have been alive, is, you know, the phases of the moon were pretty simple and predictable. Now they've tried to explain it away with something called Earthshine, because you can actually see a crescent of light when on a new moon. Call it Earthshine. But really, that's just where the positions of these celestial bodies has actually moved, and light is coming around the planet Earth to illuminate a piece of the moon. So all the signs are out there for you to look at and see and observe. You know, I'm not talking about some wild conspiracy theory here. These are observable things that you can go out and actually see with your own eyes if you care to look, and then do the research to try and figure out, what's going on. So what does this mean? It means that, like I say, the incoming solar radiation is heating all of the water. When you heat the water, it's not cold that kills things typically. I mean, you can freeze frogs and freeze koi, you can freeze fish, and then they'll come back to life. And even people have been out in extreme cold and have been proclaimed dead, that were frozen and that thaw out and that come back to life. So cold is not as dangerous as heat is. Heat kills. Radiation kills. Now, the man-made radiation from a nuclear power plant is a much different and much worse form of radiation, but solar radiation in the gamma wave spectrum is equally dangerous, or can be dangerous. I wouldn't say equally dangerous, because definitely the power plants are an order of magnitude outside of danger. They're insane. It's literally insanity. Okay, so that is something I can get extremely excited and agitated about, that everybody hasn't quite realized this yet. I would, in my heart, I ask God, or perhaps God was asking me, what would you be prepared to do to make, what sacrifices would you make? And with an open heart, I say to the Lord, anything. Blackouts, I can deal with that. I can deal with no power. I plan for that. I expect that to happen at some point. Economic collapse, I can handle that. I expect that to happen. It's a mathematical certainty at some point. So anything, and it's not like I really get a choice anyway. I don't create. I have the ability to create and participate in creation in God's image, but I am definitely not God, and I would not confuse man's ability at any point to have that level of power. And that's the spiritual connection to the physical plane, and then also where you are as an observer of the world. And it's also important to say that we're in uncharted territory. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. Some people say, well, I guess, the government, what they do is they dig a bunch of holes in the ground, and they say they're going to hide underground while the whole thing goes through and all the meteors strike the earth. And, that's how they're going to deal with what they expect the cataclysm to be. And then, as they were digging, then they found out a little something happened. It's called a sinkhole. And that scared the piss out of them, because the sinkholes are just popping up everywhere. So it was kind of like, all the money that you've spent, you don't know if you go underground in one of those vaults that you're going to survive, because this sinkhole sucker, you just don't know. And we're in uncharted territory. We don't know. Okay. And all the speculations I hear could be wrong, because there are new things that are showing that's manifesting itself every day through people's different observations. And it's possible. And we know this through, if you want to look at it through a lens of science, about quantum theory or string theory or the double slit experiment. The mere fact that you're observing it changes the outcome. This has also been done in a ball bearing experiment. They take two equal cylinders of ball bearings and open them, and at one time, and one observed moves at a more rapid pace than the other, which the physical properties have not changed, just the observation has. Just like you could look at my grandmaster years ago when I was taking Taekwondo, would tell us about this energy, and he explained you do it with a banana. He's got two bananas, and one, he loves the banana, he puts positive energy into the banana. The other, he said, I hate this banana, puts all the negative energy into it. One rots, the other stays fresh. Now, if we're to add it all in together, we know that we're electric creatures. We are bioelectric entities. Our entire system, autonomic or our higher functions are based on the transition of electrical signals, transmission and uptake, I guess. What's another word? What's a more accurate word? I don't know. Transmission and reception of electrical signals, most of which we're not even aware of, but we are bioelectric creatures. So the Earth's magnetic field, the universe even larger being magnetic, what happens if we put positive energy into the Earth? What happens if we turn our bioelectric fields positive and push that positive energy into the world? The 100 monkey effect, all these experiments show over and over and over again that we're connected. Why are we not connected to the Earth as well in this way? Scientifically demonstrated, and this is something that the esoteric arts have spoken about at great length for a long time. I think it's the fundamental of what's in a lot of religious texts, if you can avoid the authoritarian aspects of anybody that proclaims to speak for God. So I guess I tend to ramble, and I think I've gotten to all the points and at least shown you where you can look about one possible future. It's been Hank. Catch you on the flip side.